Hi guys, this is George here with another after action report, and this time it's scenario 13, Cross of Iron, the capture of Balta. So this scenario takes part in the early part of the war in the Ukraine on August 3rd, 1941. The 11th Army is advancing on the right side of Army Group South, skirting the Romanians, so it's introducing the Axis miners. Um, Along the Black Sea port of Odessa. So essentially, here the Germans are trying to assault a town, and I believe it's represented by board 3. And on board 4, there's reinforcements coming in um, to assist the main assault, which is being conducted by the 744th Engineer uh, uh, company. So in this particular scenario, I was playing with Pete Pollard. He was playing the Russian player, and I was playing the Germans. So our first thoughts. At first, I thought I would most likely succeed if I advanced through the marsh, and I thought that was a great idea until yeah, advanced through the marsh. You'll see the graphics pretty soon. Take over the second level building with a frontal assault on the Russians. Then I read the rules, and marshes are not particularly uh, a good terrain for Germans to walk on or be adjacent to if you have an armored fighting vehicle. So a marsh, while being in a marsh, Germans um, suffer from lower morale by 1, and any armored fighting vehicle that is traversing adjacent to a marsh can suffer from being getting bogged down. So I just tried to assault the village a little bit north from the march through the wheat field hexes. Pete says that his defense was set up to slow the German advance from the marsh, break up any support that the Romanians could provide by adding 2 tanks to the defense there, and prevent the link up of the German reinforcements and the initial assault group, which I believe he successfully did. So let's go to this next slide. Here is my initial uh, assault taking place here. Let's see, laser pointer. Yep. So initially my setup was, or my initial thoughts were, attack this way. But you can't just simply move out of the marsh. You have to advance out of it. And if the Russian player had any LOS to this open ground hex, he would have um, stopped my assault dead. So here Pete says, I saw the opportunity to take out the German assault gun, which is in here, before I turned my tanks to stopping any Romanian support. So initially his tanks were around here, and both of them turned up here and tried to flank me. He had one off here and one up here. And my reaction to this is I have to take out those tanks. At 45L, to hit the Stug down here, which is not one of the more powerful Stugs, looked improbable. But if he was planning to use the tanks against my infantry, he would have nailed them. Um, okay, so let's advance to German turn 1. I should have moved closer uh, to the village as much as I could. Instead, I prep fired most of my troops, and if I remember correctly, most of my prep fire, including from the Stug, was ineffective. I did acquire the MMG, which was positioned up here. but a lot of good that did me because as per the turn 1, he traversed his tanks to my flank. So let's go on to German, oh no, Russian turn 2. Here we are. Um, Russian turn 2. I tried to bring in the wall of defenders, of Russian defenders, to stop the German assault group and harass any broken units when possible. So this is the closest I've seen to a human wave attack in all my history of playing squad leader or cross of iron. Um, Most of his infantry here, as you can see, went CX to advance upon the German main axis of attack. He succeeded in breaking some of my troops, especially since he has LOS here, and uh, by some stroke of good luck, they ended up retreating, routing, and rallying and coming back again. But in this case, the Russian player did succeed in stalling the uh, German advance. Here you see Hambian trying to ensure that there's a route to link up with the German reinforcements. He was very slow in doing that. Um, Here, the flamethrower's engineer is poised to take on the tank, and we'll see how that fares. So let's go on to German 2-2. Here, here's my thoughts on German 2-2. Like I said before, Russian units are CX and they're running after the Germans in a very brave manner. As Pete likes to say, no guts, no glory. And look at this here. Look here and here. He basically could, were it not for the marsh here, conduct a nice pincer movement here. But again, he has a wall of Russian defenders all along the um, main axis of the German assault. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so Russian turn 3. I traded one of my tanks for the German assault gun. So he did take out the German assault gun from this, I believe it is a T70. I'm not sure. But it is a 45L. This fellow here had LOS to the side of the Stug, knocked him out. So there is my one chance of getting C7 to be used against any Russian defenders up in smoke. Um, After throwing smoke in this hex, um, I blunted his assault here and took out one of his T-70s, one of his light tanks, with my flamethrower. The other flamethrower eventually would run out of ammo as I rolled above the breakdown number. Han managed to advance quite steadily. The others are still quite far from even reaching these buildings. Uh, so, Pete says, I traded one of my tanks for the German assault gun. The loss and forcing my opponent to counter my tank placement and moving some troops away from the village only helps to delay his advance towards his objectives. Well, from my perspective, the fact that he has a wall of troops here, an infantry gun here, an MMG up here, a mortar within striking distance, and an endless amount of reinforcements to come over and take over the MMG, my assault gun knocked out kind of diminished the probability that I would reach my victory objective. Let's see what I put down here. So the Russian player succeeded in forcing a retreat of my forces only to have them rally and do a reasonable advance, but still the Germans are far from achieving any headway, which is what I basically said before. Now, one thing you need to know is I put my commentary before Pete did. Not that it makes a difference, but I think there's excellent commentary here. Uh, I haven't made a video about with the uh, with the rolls and the moves, it would be quite lengthy. And I always ask for the consent of recording gameplay, and this time I unfortunately I didn't have it from Pete, but he was able and willing to help me out with the AR, and I greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Pete. Russian turn 4. Now here you have a crazy situation. Right. So my lone tank must abandon his support on the right and put pressure on the beleaguered German reinforcements. With luck, my troops eliminated a 9-2 and squad his this cut off any support for two engineers who made a mad dash to an entrenched German squad. Now, the principal line of advance for my reinforcements was through the woods, through the wheat field, and up to these woods here. Quickly overwhelmed the defenders here. These defenders here were uh, were cleared by my initial assault. So I had a clear line of advance here and to here, because basically you need to occupy these axes here. So I'm having one axis of advance here, another axis of advance here, and a diversionary attack here. Why a diversionary attack? Well, I did succeed in scurrying away his lone tank that was here. I could have brought the engineers through here, through the wheat field and up this way. I didn't. I didn't because along this axis here, he basically had no LOS, and there was one unit somewhere around close to here that did have LOS. Actually here, I don't remember, but anyway, um, completely missed the engineer squads that advanced along this line. Oh, actually, he had a 447 right in this trench, right, and he was quickly overwhelmed, completely missed the engineers. I tried to bring the 9-2 safely through the woods into this map, avoiding any -2 modifiers, so there was only a +1 here and here. But they got lucky, and they got the engineer with double morale checks and elimination. Yep, so the squads made it, the 9-2 did not make it. In the meantime, I'm trying to outflank him in the village. I won in close combat here, and my reinforcements are only having difficulty with the medium machine gun up on the church. Okay, so let's go to German turn 4. Let's see what I put down. The German reinforcements made good progress in the east, but on the western half of the map board, the mad dash forward only preoccupied the Russians for a few turns before the Germans were defeated. Yep. Turn 5. As the German tries to outflank my village defense, I use my better lines of communication to counter anything that he tries. With 2 additional tanks, I think that my defense is solid. Well, was it really? I'm not sure. As you can see, it's turn 5. His tank is still preoccupied trying to get rid of the German assault engineers here. He's using a tank and a mortar. These entrenchments that Pete thought of, making them in the woods, gave him additional protection, which was excellent and hard to dislodge. His excellent use of mobility tactics here convinced that the Germans probably were not in a good position to go around the village. That wall was basically solid right here along this axis. Let's see what my thoughts were. The Russian player has effectively shifted his forces to thwart my flank attack. He was unsuccessful in hindering the advance of my infantry to the east, but the engineers, despite their initial success, bought the farm. Well, the engineers up here did. I mean, there was an insurmountable amount of effective fire on these engineers to the point that eventually they got eliminated by morale checks. Russian turn 6. The Germans have decided to push into the village now that maybe a great wheeling motion will take too long. My defensive fire into his wall of smoke disrupted enough of his forces to prevent any sufficient progress. I did make a wall of smoke so I can advance directly onto the Russians. However, Pete just peppered that smoke with small arms fire to the point that he got great success. So despite my reinforcements here gaining ground, here they broke, but still they were able to advance into the closest cover, which was the entrenchments. The Romanians did not so shabby. They advanced as well. But basically, with the MMG armed here at the church or the city hall, advancing into these open hexes was almost suicidal. As you can see, one of my leaders here is broken. I had to leave behind a broken squad. Whatever was left here, he had a couple of good hits, and I had to retreat with desperation morale. So the Germans finally lay smoke in advance of trying to set foot on the village, but the Russians had another plan in their mind. Okay, turn 7. This is a 10-turn game. So my defense continued to give Germans grief, to say the least, they say. I was able to infiltrate his line of smoke with a squad to further frustrate him in the assault. Also, with his reinforcements reduced in the west, I was able to relocate my troops to concentrate in the center. So that didn't go well at all, right here. Yep. And the Russian player advances right in front of the charging Germans in the open. The Germans failed to score a hit and broke. Close that. Sorry about that. The hunters became the hunted. The advance of the German reinforcements also faltered. Finally, the German concedes the game, right? So at turn 7, I saw no further hope that we could advance onto the victory hexes down here. The German reinforcements were far. In hindsight, I should have advanced them somehow through here, if I could, or through here. The Germans should never have prep fire. They should advance at full speed to the greatest extent possible. It would have been a great idea if I could have brought up my Stug all the way up here within the first turn, but I didn't for some godforsaken reason. And this is basically how the scenario ended. Sorry for those notifications here. I apologize. I should turn them off. So if you have any questions, any comments, please comment below. Like or subscribe. I know that the videos, they could be of better quality. I'm doing my best, and I'm also doing the best to contribute to the community. I love this game. Do watch other channels that are dedicated to Squad Leader, Vaseline with Stu, the itinerant hobbyist. They have great insights into this hobby. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.